Discussion, information items, COVID-19 update.
As the boards are well aware, we are through our 2 full weeks of remote learning. This week we have a shortened week, obviously, with Labor Day. So Dr. Freitas and his team have been gathering some hard numbers and also trying to keep a pulse by surveying every 2 weeks the staff as well as the parents and students. So I will let Dr. Freitas speak to that. Also present tonight is Ms. Augustine and Ms. Lindquist, if there's any additional comments they can answer. But a majority of this will come from Dr. Freitas. And then we did receive several questions from board members. I shared those with the building administration. So tonight in your presentation, if you could try to address those, be appreciated. And then at the end, we can discuss. Ms. Sierra had one final question of like, well, what are we going to start using to measure how to come back or eventually to get in person? And I think that will be more of a question I could lay out for the board a little bit. Okay, Dr. Freitas.
Good evening, greetings, Flora, Bill, Gina, Wes, Mona, Tom, Deanna. Nice to see everybody here. Guys, onward, ever onward. Week 3 of remote learning. Guys, let me tell you how things are going. Guys, every week I send an email to the staff members, and I just want to read you a little highlight. You know, I've been doing this since I started last year. So this will be I believe my 39th, weekly message that I sent to the staff. I just took a little piece. Just so you guys know what a virtual classroom looks like, the things that are happening. So Ms. Zimmerman, one of our art teachers, has transformed students' rooms into art studios. It was beautiful to be part of that class. I saw students right there, right on their bed, right on their desk, working and molding, cups to their texture, to their like. It was a beautiful sight to see art at home. I got to see Mr. Sloan, and he was teaching students about production possibilities curve, and that's all I'm researching now, PPC, going back to my math, and having students work on in break rooms and students present to one another. Mr. Schultz has students playing the role of statisticians and helping farmers produce better outcomes in AP Stats. So our teachers are engaging students, giving them roles, and transforming their bedrooms into authentic classrooms. It's been a beautiful sight to see. Our students are inviting me to virtual lunches. I'm eating with some of these students, It's been great. And what's importantly, as students are eating together. Hey, let's Zoom, guys, let's Zoom. And they're sharing, and breaking bread virtually together. Our clubs are meeting virtually and in person, so student engagement is still moving forward. And our athletes are shining. I'm sure you guys have seen me on the tennis courts, at the cross-country meets, and on the golf courts. So our students are engaged virtually, they're engaged in extracurriculars, and they're engaged in athletics. RB is continuing, RB is living, RB is moving forward. And for everybody listening, every Monday from 8 to 8:15, I will be on Instagram Live, providing students and parents updates on the great things that are happening at RB. So guys, catch me Monday on Instagram Live from 8 to 8:15, okay? And if I have a staff meeting, guys, just give me a few minutes, okay? I'll get on, all right? Now I'd like to report some of our data, starting with our teacher attendance. So teacher attendance for week 1 was 97.5%, and teacher attendance for week 2 was 94%. So why the difference? Week 1, I didn't include staff members that were in FMLA. Week 2, I did. But so if I do include staff members that are in FMLA, we're right there about the 94, 95 range. So as you can see, our staff, they're committed, they're teaching, and they're present for our students. The next update that I would like to share is student attendance. I know the board brought that last quarter as a concern. Because here at RB, we're used to 94, 95% and above, right? Was considered good attendance. Week 1, we were at 96.3% student attendance, and week 2, we were at 96.85%. So I want to say those are pretty good numbers, those are high numbers, and if we stay on track, right, cross our fingers. I know things are hard to do week to week, but we should surpass our averages. We've always averaged about 94 and some change in years prior, but so right now our attendance numbers for both staff and students are looking pretty good. Next, I would like to share an executive summary of the survey that I sent to teachers. I had 40 respondents. I gave this survey at the end of day one, week one. So I'm thinking to myself, I probably need to do a follow-up survey. I did leave it up open for 2 days. In this survey, I asked the teachers, please describe a positive experience. And I just took themes from that. So one positive experience was interacting with students and seeing their faces virtually. Teachers valued seeing their students. Exploring with students how to successfully log into a virtual meeting, reviewing Schoology and classroom expectations. And there were, at least from that small sample, there were few to no tech issues. Describe a challenging experience. The 5-minute passing period on Mondays is too short. I've been in virtual classroom, I participated. Guys, it takes about 3 to 4 minutes to log in, log off. Sometimes you need to charge your computer. Sometimes, your connection is buffering, your signal is weak. There are just many challenges. But you know what's special? I've seen teachers stay a minute or two after to continue engaging students. For those that teach, guys, it's hard to tell students, stop, I gotta go to my next period. Me as an administrator, I always say, you answer that student's question, because a minute now could save 30 minutes to an hour of frustration later on. So 5 minutes on Mondays is a little too short, and you'll see it in the student survey as well. Guys, remote learning and teaching is a whole new ballgame. Right, there are new pitfalls that we need to jump through, new lesson planning, new ways of giving feedback, new way of grouping and having students collaborate. So it's been a challenge, and then a challenge within that. There have been, some tech issues. What support do you need? The teachers need continued PD support using technology for learning. We have provided many opportunities, but I think there's going to be something that is ongoing. It's not going to end. And the last 2 questions that I asked the staff members, how confident do you feel teaching remote learning? 82% of staff members felt somewhat to very confident in teaching remote learning, And my last question that I was, how was the level of engagement as measured by attendance? 90% of respondents felt students were engaged to highly engaged as measured by attendance. Moving on to the next survey. Next, I surveyed the students. And if we can show that there, please, in the presentation.
46, Mayor.
So the first question that I asked students was, is the current remote learning schedule, the 7-period day schedule, meeting your expectations for learning? 71% of students said yes, 28.9% said no. Is the 5-minute passing period on Monday sufficient? 67% of students said no, 32% said yes. Are classes being conducted via Zoom, Google Meets, or other live virtual platforms? 98.8% of students said yes. How engaging is remote learning? Again, guys, this question is tricky because I asked this question as it relates to attendance, and as a follow, maybe I separated, have an engagement question and an attendance question. But as you can see there, if I group the 3 and the 5 from not engaged, and the 5 is highly engaged, and it did come out in the original survey, just when you printed it, for some reason, it did not come out those descriptors. But we have there about 72% of students that could say that they were engaged or somewhat too engaged. So, engagement is occurring. The last question that I asked students and parents, as you'll see, are teachers' virtual hours after the last scheduled period helpful? 87% said yes, 12.9% said no. And these were some of the questions and comments and general feedback that I received. Again, they may have been repeated multiple times. I try to put themes from the survey. Remote learning, according to students, is going well. We're doing breakout rooms, sharing screens, and learning new skills. I miss school. When are we going to get back to school? I saw that. Too much screen time is tough. We're getting a lot of homework, and we need longer passing period on Mondays. Those are some of the themes that repeated themselves throughout the survey.
Quick question on that, Hector, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
Was this survey done in the same time frame as the teacher survey, or was
No,
it
it was
following?
not. This came week 2.
Okay.
This
Just
was
want to make
done-
sure I'm understanding the.
Yes, this came week 2. Yep. And again, the same questions that I asked the students, I did ask the families. Is the current remote learning schedule meeting your needs? 81% said yes, 18% said no. Is the 5-minute passing period sufficient on Mondays? Surprisingly, a majority, 69% said yes, 30% said no. But if we actually in a virtual setting, I would tell you, I would lean with the students and say it is not sufficient. Okay, guys, there's transition time, screen break time, logging in time, asking questions. Guys, you really do need 10 minutes, to prepare successfully for the next period.
I think you're seeing there, Hector, is that the parents, this is the parent one, right?
That is the parent was correct.
They're telling us something by that statement, right? That's the community speaking to us. Telling us that, yeah, it's fine, because they want more learning. That's the way I take that.
Okay.
Go ahead, I digress.
Are the classes being conducted via Zoom, Google Meet? 99.6% said yes. And how engaging is remote learning? So there, right, we have about looking close to 80%, somewhat to highly engaged. Are teachers' virtual office hours after the last scheduled period helpful? 87% of parents said yes, 12.9% said no. And these were some of the general comments and feedback that I was able to derive from the comment section. Glad we went virtual and have a robust schedule with supports. Teachers are doing a nice job engaging students, doing breakout rooms and following with students. We need in-person learning and some challenges in general. Internet links not working, online inappropriate behavior, screen time and homework. Yes, we have been the victim of Zoom bombs, as many other schools, probably throughout America. And we're working hard with our new deans, to make sure that we follow up and that we implement protective measures so the Zoom bombs don't occur as often as they have been. So that was the survey results, and then my last item that I wanted to
Before we move on, can I ask a few
Of
more
course,
questions
Deanna, of
about the
course,
survey? So it says there's 498 parents and 498 students. So are these, the same questions were given to students and parents?
Correct.
And what was the general split between students and parents?
General split, meaning, Deanna, could you elaborate a little more?
How many of these were,
Of the 498, how
Thank
many
you.
were parents and how many were
Oh, no.
students?
I sent one survey to parents, and I sent one survey only to students.
and they both had approximately 500
Exactly.
responses?
Yes.
Okay.
I did an e-blast with one survey to parents, and I
Okay.
did an e-blast with one survey to students.
Okay, I wanted to understand.
Yep.
And that was also done in the second week? The parents'
Yes,
survey
correct.
was done around the same time?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they were.
And what's your plan for the next round of surveys? That's happening next week or the week after? You said every 2 weeks is the goal?
Yes, I do want to get a post, so I know many board members share some feedback, so, I'll be more than happy to include any questions you have, whatever you think is appropriate, but build on some of these same questions, and then, possibly, add, some more open-ended questions, to give people really an opportunity, to share what's on their mind. But definitely continue with some of these and take, I know you guys have shared some of the questions you guys would like, and add those to future surveys. Or if you guys have any question you would like to add now, feel free to share now or some future time. But I'll be more than happy to follow up with a survey according to the questions you guys have. Tom?
Well, I just would like to second, I think, Deanna's point, which is that, even, like, let's say to the teachers, I would be very interested to hear from the teachers whether they think this is useful information or what's missing. And presumably you're already doing that, but I think we can't be careful enough, because we spent the whole summer thinking that we're asking the right questions or we're going the right process. So I think right now that it's happening, I would just love to see that all members of the community are continuously encouraged to not only answer these, but also what's not on here that maybe we should be asking.
Probably a good question, Hector, would be at the end of each one for students, teachers, and parents, would be how comfortable, like gauging their interest of coming back in person, right? And that was one complaint we heard from the teachers union, is that there wasn't a virtual option even though we were trying to figure out how to come back in person, there wasn't a virtual option, so we should start gauging the interest of how soon, do you want to continue with remote learning, or would you like to progress towards in-person or some form of in-person, so that we can begin to measure that temperature, maybe a bad word, temperature during COVID. So maybe we can measure that pulse of the community, the students, and the teachers as we continue through this first quarter. Okay.
That makes complete sense, as I could see that going as a round 2 question. Yep.
Can I just jump in? I'm just wondering
Go,
how we
Gina.
can get more students to answer Because if we only had about 500, I mean, don't we have about 1,600 kids? Like, what could we do? And I don't know, but it would be nice if we could get at least closer to 50% of our students answering, because we only know what these 500 students are telling us, not what the other 1,100.
Yeah, it's very self-selected, right?
Well, immediately, you know, I believe I only did an e-blast. I could follow up with a phone blast. I did do a phone blast and follow up with social media.
Or could it be something that maybe gets pushed out second period on a certain day? Just, I don't know,
that's a
just
good idea.
something
That's a
so
good
that, because I'm curious on what more of the students are thinking.
Do you have any suggestions? Yeah, Lily?
Yeah, so today they sent out some social emotional survey that we were supposed to take during English. I don't know, my class didn't, but I think that was just because it was first period and maybe Mr. Forberg didn't know yet. But I would just push it out during a certain class and then have the teachers give the students a couple minutes to fill it out. Because I think if they make it part of the class time, then the students will know. And most students don't even check their emails, honestly. So if their teachers are telling them, they have a higher chance of filling it out.
Yeah, I think also that you need to tell teachers to talk about it or send it through, I don't know, Reminder Schoology, because I've seen it through email, but more students, they have to be on Schoology or Google Classroom for class. So they're going to see it that way rather than an email.
It's a good suggestion.
Thank you, guys. Great ideas. Thank you.
Oh, Hector, are you
Yes,
able
ma'am.
to tag or flag, you know, what year the students are? You know, the freshmen, you know, who's giving the responses? I mean, that's something for consideration, see how the participation is between each class.
That's a good idea, but I can do that. I can add that as a feature to the survey.
Just the last thing, do the students have opportunity to see these results? Because I think it should be articulated to the students that these are the results that are representing them as a student body. It may or may not be true, since we only have about 30% answering that, which may encourage more students, if this does not represent them, then to participate in the, so it'd be good if this whole student body knew how they were being portrayed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could upload it to Schoology or
Yeah, like
the
I
website. Just make it more accessible.
Yeah, and if somebody could, because you're representatives, but I don't know that the student body realizes that the board will make decisions based on those results. And so, you know, our student body needs to understand that this is their chance to have voice.
I know over the summer that when you sent out surveys, students were aware of that. I don't know if it's changed because we're in school now or something, but
Okay.
before then, they did. I've seen people look at it that way.
Okay.
And I guess one final suggestion, I think you mentioned this, or maybe it was Dr. Skinkis, you know, having a more open-ended question included. You know, I have a teacher who's doing an exceptional job. You know, I want to talk to you, and not to put more work on your desk, Dr. Freitas, but I think hearing some of these personal stories, or, you know, my teacher hasn't logged in timely, what do I need to do? Like, I think both ways, getting some of those anecdotal feedbacks would be really helpful to drill down on from the administration perspective, and then come back to the board with any challenges that might be out there, or real success stories.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, if there are no more comments, my last item is adding 5 minutes to the Monday passing period. As I shared earlier, and you saw in the comments I made, and I know maybe you guys have something to say, but, you know, in this remote learning environment, we need more time to transition, to take breaks from the screen, you know, and to have our questions answered. It's a small modification which I believe puts us in a better situation and gives students more an opportunity to learn, to relax, and to really prepare themselves for the next class. So I would like on the Monday schedule to add 5 extra minutes to have a total of 10-minute passing period, which is what we have Tuesday through Friday.
Can I talk on that?
Go, Lily.
I would love to hear what you both have to say about
Yeah.
that.
Okay, I think the 5 minutes is definitely too rushed. I was one of the people who left the comments to get rid of the 5-minute passing periods on the student survey. But teachers have always said The bell doesn't dismiss you, we do. And the same thing goes for Zoom. They will keep us 3 minutes past the time period. And then when they keep us 3 minutes past, then we have 2 minutes left to join our next one. And it takes, at least my laptop, it takes a couple minutes to join a Zoom just for it to connect and whatnot. So 5 minutes is definitely not enough time. Barely enough time to join another Zoom, and not at all enough time to even stand up, which is really what kids need when they're on their laptop all day long. So I definitely think we should make it 10 minutes, maybe like the other days. I think that's a lot more, better for the students.
I completely agree with Lily because even technically wise, some people have slower connections. Maybe the teacher just opens up the class at that moment. Then he has a flood of kids coming in. You're losing time. And even when we're ending class, maybe he has to quickly wrap up something. And then we're already 2 minutes left to transition to the next class. It's not enough time. I completely agree with Lily in that part.
Dr. Freitas, can we just make sure we make some adjustments? I think the example you provided the board in the packet, I think there's some calculations that are off. So that just needs to be revised.
Yeah, it should be 12:50, excuse me.
Yeah, lunch is 45 minutes instead of 40 minutes, and then you got another 15-minute break before you start fifth period. So we need to address some of that stuff. Okay?
Yep, we'll take care of it.
And so we're also hearing that there's some Zoom etiquette. I don't know if administration can say that we really do have to end our sessions on time. For those of us who've used Zoom business meetings, really when we open our business meeting, it's the first thing said is this meeting will end at this time. We need to watch the time so it ends because many of us have another meeting to go to. And hopefully we could do that in our classes too, because that is what the business world looks like. Hours and hours of Zoom meetings with people across the country. And a lot of times you get on that meeting and you know you got a hard end.
Another thing in regards to Zoom, so as Dr. Freitas touched on briefly, we've had a few Zoom bombs and some things with, keep in touch with a lot of the high school districts. I think all of them are experiencing some issues with Zoom. So last week we purchased roughly for about $7,500 the Zoom accounts for each of our teachers so that they have another level of security features that they could put in place to hopefully minimize these types of distractions. So we've addressed that with the Zoom. Dr. Freitas, at some point, I know you're on the 5-minute schedule, and we brought this to the board tonight just because the board originally approved the remote learning schedule. So any amendment to the board should at least be discussed with the board before the administration makes any of those changes. But I think we had a couple questions back to some of your talking points. Can you touch on briefly teacher absences? I know that was a point that was sent in and that one of the board members wanted to discuss, or at least make sure we understand how we're approaching that.
Yeah, of course. So if a teacher's out sick, they must report their absence on Frontline. Frontline is our online absence system we've used for years. They have to notify myself, their IC, Ms. Lindquist and Heather, communicate with families and students, and upload their lesson on Schoology. This will be an asynchronous experience with no sub. And we're also still working on some other details, but that is the general gist of our teacher protocol. You're gonna be sick, make sure you get it online, update your plans, let parents and students know so students could be prepared, for their first hour whenever they meet.
And so we sorted through some of those communication issues in the first 2 weeks. And I know you just sent something out to staff specifying again the steps they need to take. I will say to the board, on even in a traditional school day, when a student may have a sub, that sub is usually pushing out the teacher's lesson plan, whether it's a reading assignment, a worksheet, or 2 worksheets, or some type of project, or a student-led assignment. But very rarely on a one-day absence is a substitute continuing synchronous learning right where the teacher left off, because in a high school setting, it's hard to find a sub that's going to be certified in multiple areas or even certified as a teacher. To be a sub, you just have to have a bachelor's degree. And so the asynchronous should not come as a surprise to parents or to the board because that's pretty much aligns with how a sub would work on a regular school day. Now, we're not, the hope is if there's more than a day absence or any type of extended leave, that yourself, Ms. Lindquist, Ms. Bryan, the instructional coaches are working on somebody that can pick up that synchronous learning, correct?
Yes. Yeah, if a teacher is going to be absent for multiple days, it has to be approved, and we'll make sure that we will get a substitute for that teacher. But I'll tell you guys right now it's extremely difficult, to get a sub. However, it is our job to seek, to find, no matter how long it takes. So if it's gonna be for multiple days, we will be having a sub for that teacher.
And Dr. Freitas, you also we put in a protocol, if I'm not mistaken, that if a teacher has to be absent and it's not for so if a child is sick or a parent or sibling is sick or they're quarantining, we put the administrative procedure in place so that they can continue to teach from home so those kids get synchronous instruction instead of having a sub and doing asynchronous, correct?
That's exactly correct. Yep.
Okay.
And to all the parents and students listening, I will be sending out a communication with these protocols to the community so everyone understands what we're doing here at RB, because I understand that maybe some of the frustration comes out of simply not knowing, guys, what's the procedure, what's going on. So I'll make sure that I send a parent version home so the community knows our protocols here at RB.
So is that a change?
Is what a change?
That a teacher may teach from home if they have?
No, we talked about that at our board meeting on August 19th when we did the emergency meeting, but we wanted to communicate to staff that, if you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and your child is sick, and now with the new IDPH guidelines, they can't go to school or they can't go to their daycare, and you got to stay home, but you're able to still teach, it's more effective for our students to allow that teacher to teach from home for that day, so that the kids can continue their learning instead of trying to have a sub who's just going to, it won't even have a sub, they'll just get a worksheet or asynchronous assignment. I think where the gap was in the first 2 weeks is some of this wasn't clarified, and I think some parents didn't know what to expect, and so instead of maybe coming right directly to Dr. Freitas, they went to social media first. But Dr. Freitas called each of those parents and kind of got that all worked out, so I think we're in a good place, but you're planning on sending another communication this week.
Correct, yes, as we just finalize in working with the teachers on the details for the...
But is that being monitored? Because the biggest complaint, the last time we did online, is continual interruption from children of teachers. And that's from all schools.
Yes, that is being monitored.
I mean, my daughter complained constantly having to see toddlers crawling all over the teacher. No teaching was happening with her son.
No, we are monitoring that. We have a system in place.
Are we having internal subbing as well?
Yes, we're open for internal subbing, correct. It's part of our procedures.
So what is so back to, let me make this simple. So if a teacher is sick, they don't necessarily have a sub. They have a lesson plan that they put online, but then sometimes we do if it's a multiple day. Is that the
For
way I
multiple
understand it?
days, the protocol is to have a teacher. If it's a single day or single period, we may not have a teacher or some internal sub available, Wes.
During virtual remote learning.
Right.
And obviously, when we have kids in the building, you have a sub in the classroom, but 90% of that sub's job is to make sure you take student attendance and you're supervising students so they're not left unsupervised.
I just want to understand it. I mean, and as for the 5 minutes, I don't want to micromanage the administration. We trust you to make the schedule the best we can. I think we were forced as a board to get involved at the beginning of school, and it was disappointing that we had to be that involved in the schedule. But I just do want to reinforce what's best for the kids, right? It's all about the kiddos. I mean, that's I think, and if 5 minutes can assist in getting us back to in-person learning, then I'm all in.
Thank you, Wes.
So.
I do want to make a comment, though, that we as a board and the administration seems to be making some nice accommodations for our teachers that our parents are not necessarily receiving from their jobs. So I hope our staff understands that the parents in this community are stressed beyond all measures. Many having to go to work, many having to go to work with their kids at home half a day learning, and having to rely on neighbors or grandparents to come in. And if they're sick or a kid, they don't have these same concessions that we're making for our staff. I just want to put that out there for administration to hear that they are getting some nice concessions.
Administration or teachers?
For our teachers are getting some.
No, you guys
nice
have to come to
concessions
school no matter what.
that our community members are not getting. The community is having a very difficult time during this season.
I guess I have a follow-up question to that. I mean, because we're talking about an increased passing period that I think makes perfectly good sense based on the, based on how it works. But is that the only way? Like those additional 5 minutes, do they have to come out of the total minutes per lesson?
Well, the other way, Tom, would be for us to take it out of our professional learning community time, or PLC time. And I personally don't think, that's a good idea, knowing that we're teaching in a new medium, and I want to allow teachers to have the most time to plan effectively for your kids. So those were the two options. Either you take it from the PLC time and for the classroom time, and teachers were losing a few minutes, from the classroom time regardless, as they were transitioning a student logging in, logging off. So I thought that the 5 minutes, from the class just made the most sense.
So I guess I have one comment to make, and I mean, to Wes's point, it's not our role to micromanage the details here, but my first reaction is we're losing another 35 minutes of instruction time, right? And that doesn't sit quite right with me in terms of what we've lost overall in terms of instruction time. And the other piece is we've only had truly one Monday, right? We haven't had multiple Mondays yet, so that was the first reaction. I would like to see us, wait if we could for 2 more weeks and obviously we missed a Monday this week, to see, is this truly the change that makes sense? So we're not in a matter of piecemealing changes over the course of the quarter. Are there any other changes that we're thinking about or wanting to adapt to? Is this the right time to make this? And we're early on, and we're hearing it from the students, we're hearing it from the staff. We've heard the opposite from the parents. Do we want to give this a few more weeks to gel? That's my question to the group.
I think we can. So we lost them. We had not lost, but we had our first week of the quarter was that orientation week, and we had 2 full weeks of remote learning. So this is our 3rd week. So we're really in our 4th week now, and so there's only 9 weeks left. So we're kind of at almost the midpoint. When you look at it that way, I do hear what you're saying. I do think if Dr. Freitas, if we can go, and you can go back and look at the schedule a little bit, there might be some tweaks we can make that would provide the 10 minutes. Or I think we just got to look at the numbers a little better. We're still going to have to lose some time, but maybe there's something we can do in between, balancing these a little bit. Between the lunch period being 45 minutes, we can maybe shorten that on a Monday because they're having an hour in the morning for PLC time. Between that, the extra 15 minutes, that was probably just a typo from 12:45 to 1. So there might be some things we can do to maybe not have to sacrifice the 35 minutes. But if the board allows us the flexibility, I hear you loud and clear, and I will continue to work with the building administration so that we can try to figure this out a little better. Is that okay, or?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I would just like to say one more thing. So if we do not get rid of that time, kids are still going to we're going to lose that time whether or not we give it to the students, because when we log into the next class, there's still people coming in, the teacher still has to do attendance. So if we don't give us the time, it's probably going to be lost anyway.
So you're saying, Michael, that doesn't happen on a Thursday? It only happens on
I
Monday?
feel like it's less students that happens to with that additional 5 minutes.
I mean, I know some districts didn't even put in a passing period, and they just, you go from, like in the business world, you go from meeting to meeting to meeting. And if you need to go up and take a bathroom break or run to the kitchen, you do that during the class. I mean, that's part of the virtual environment, which is not quite a direct translation to education. I understand that. But I do think 10 minutes is a pretty generous personal break between any obligation on a calendar. But
I would say the 10 minutes, though, is more like 5 minutes, because by the time you get off of your previous Zoom, and then by the time you have to start logging on to the next Zoom, like, you spend probably half the 10 minutes doing both of those things.
sure.
So couldn't you log on right when you logged off, then log right back? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, on
I log
Mondays,
on and log off all day long,
Yep.
and I don't have 10 minutes.
Well, that's my point.
To your point, and I excuse myself, and I have kids at home, and if you think that they're in front of that computer all day, yeah, they're over here doing this. And they do- I mean, there's a moment you can excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, come back, you know?
I don't see kids
But
getting.
but I don't want to micromanage it, that I want the administration to, we trust you. I mean, that's,
Okay.
right? But I think we've made our point that we're with the community and the parents here, right? You know?
I think if we could figure it out, Dr. Freitas, you and I would sit and look at a couple of these things, we should be okay.
I mean, what's
So
a
that-
passing period in a normal day of school? Kids running around the school.
5
We had
minutes.
everybody here in school, what's a passing period?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So everybody can, they figure out how to go to the bathroom in 5 minutes, right? Get a drink of water.
Maybe we do need more time to adjust. Maybe that's why. Like you're saying, maybe just wait those 2 weeks and then still see if it's still a problem.
If we don't lose the 35 minutes of instruction, the board's okay with the move for sure, though, correct?
Yeah, I think we're good.
That's,
Well,
the key
yes.
is the board doesn't want to lose 35 minutes of instruction.
That's
So
absolutely.
if I play with the lunchtime and the little extra time that's in the schedule and 5 minutes off of PLC or something, as
Last
long
year
as we're not
wasn't-
losing 35 minutes, the board's okay.
I think that's very important.
Can I
Okay.
speak? Or last year, wasn't PLC only 40 minutes though? Because we started at 8:40. So couldn't you just take it from that and make PLC 40 minutes? And then that would add some time. And then you can just start lunch right at 12:45 when it's like says it ends, instead of giving extra 15-minute break.
Right, I'll get, we got it. Loud and clear. Message delivered, board. We'll work on
Figured
it.
out.
As long as we don't lose the 35 minutes, we'll make it.
You were on this
Guys,
committee.
I
really.
appreciate
Come on.
everybody's feedback, and
Should've made this.
I hear that the board is open to the 10 minutes. We just have to revise, where we're getting it from, and we'll do that.
Did Dr. Freitas address all questions that were submitted? I'm trying to look here in my PDF. I think for the most part we did. We talked about attendance, we talked about,
Oh, Dr. Skinkis, there was one, it was regarding student attendance. Has there been, and I'm paraphrasing, a student that has not been engaged at all? Only one student. There's only one student that has not engaged or signed in at all. We've done a home visit, our deans have, our counselors know, our teachers know, and now we're gonna follow up with our local law enforcement officers to do a wellness check. But there's only one student that has not logged in during these past 2 weeks.
okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?